And there's a phenomenon that happens late at night. It leaves no trace. No one can see it. Only you know that it felt like you just walked out of hell. You open your eyes, but you can't move. You try to scream, but your throat is frozen. It feels like something is pressing down on your chest. You're drenched in sweat, struggling to call for help, to move, but you can't. People call it sleep paralysis. Science defines it as a sleep-related paralysis condition. But is it really just a symptom? Or could there be a spiritual force out there, still trying to pin you down every single night? The story is told to me by Luang Tinet, a young Hmong woman in Vietnam, right in front of the Mao Temple of Da Bac. The atmosphere was wild, surrounded by the vast waters of the lake, the deep green of the mountains, and the mist rising in the twilight, sending chills down the spine of anyone listening. It happened on a quiet, moonlit night. The dim light of the moon filtered through the bedroom window. In the middle of her sleep, the Muyong girl heard the creaking of the door. Then, a shadowy figure slipped into the room. It was a young man with a pale, ghostly face. He slowly approached her bed and reached out to caress her cheek. His hand was ice cold, like frozen water. Terrified, she tried to push his hand away and screamed, but for some reason her body was paralyzed and her scream stuck in her throat. She summoned all her strength to roll away, but it was no use. As if sensing her fear, the young man's face leaned in close to hers. His pale face suddenly began to change. It darkened, and two sharp fangs protruded from the corners of his mouth. His jaws opened wide, ready to sink into her neck. Somehow, a surge of strength burst from within, and her scream finally broke free. She sat up in panic. In the faint moonlight, she caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure drifting toward the window and disappearing into the moonlight. Just then, her family burst into the room, switching on the lights. From that night on, she never dared sleep alone again. Strange dreams and terrifying immobility still haunted her from time to time, but thankfully, she never saw that ghostly face again. Her family eventually had to take her to a spiritual ceremony to drive the spirit away. In another story, at the psychiatric consultation room of the Central Mental Hospital, a man named Kwang shared his experience. From time to time, he would dream of a beautiful girl dressed in a thin, mist-like gown who entered his room while he slept. She would gently caress him, but strangely, every time this happened, he fell into a state of complete paralysis. His limbs would freeze, and even though he wanted to speak, no words came out. It wasn't until he managed to summon all his strength to break free that the girl would vanish. When he told his family about these dreams, they didn't believe him. They thought he was suffering from a mental disorder, so they brought him to the hospital for treatment. Another story, told in the first person, goes like this. The first time I experienced sleep paralysis was in the winter of 2012. It happened shortly after my grandfather passed away. I had moved in with my grandmother, hoping to ease some of the pain she was going through. After 60 years of marriage, she wasn't used to being alone, and I knew she couldn't bear the overwhelming sadness that filled the empty house. I wanted to be there for her, to help in any way I could. So, I moved into the spare bedroom right next to hers. At night, I'd help her to bed, adjust her pillows and blanket, and turn off the light. A task she had done for me countless times when I was a child. Now, with our roles reversed, it made me feel a deep sadness, but that sorrow also gave me a strong sense of purpose, to protect one of the most important women in my life. I lay in the room next door, listening to my grandmother cry. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep, but then, a few hours later, I suddenly woke up with a chill running through me. When I tried to pull the blanket up, I realized I couldn't move. I started to panic. What was happening to me? Why was my body completely paralyzed? I tried to lift my arm, but it wouldn't budge. My head was glued to the pillow, my body frozen stiff. Then, a heavy pressure appeared on my chest, pushing me down. The more I panicked, the harder it became to breathe. Like something straight out of a horror movie. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I couldn't even move my eyes. I had no choice but to stare into the darkness. I couldn't see anything, but for some reason, I felt something or someone was in the room with me. Something invisible. And it wouldn't let me go. After a few minutes, though it felt like hours, I was finally able to move again. My body trembled. I turned on the bedside lamp and sat upright in bed, unable to sleep for the rest of the night. Sleep paralysis has existed for thousands of years. In the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, there is a passage describing Tao Sao experiencing sleep paralysis, supposedly as a result of killing too many people. A painting by Italian artist Carosili, created in the late 14th century, vividly depicts the body of a person in the throes of sleep paralysis, arched upward, as if trying to push away some invisible figure. Back then, people believed that sleep paralysis was a supernatural phenomenon caused by deities or evil spirits. Through the stories above, we can see that sleep paralysis is a phenomenon in which a person, while sleeping, suddenly becomes vividly aware that something or someone is pressing down on a part of their body, usually the chest, legs, arms, head, or face, causing them to feel suffocated or numb, yet completely unable to cry out or struggle to escape. A sleep paralysis episode typically lasts from 10 to 30 seconds and can occur at any age, though it is most common among adolescents and young adults. According to surveys in the field of psychiatry, around 40% of the global population has experienced sleep paralysis at least once in their lives. Many people believe that it is caused by spirits from the underworld rising up, celestial beings descending, or simply by having a weak soul. A belief that has led to various spiritual remedies, such as wearing talismans, using charms, or even drinking incense ash water to banish the presence. Since ancient times, sleep paralysis has often been seen as a spiritual or supernatural experience. That's why the image of a dream demon has appeared in cultures all around the world. However, according to researchers, sleep paralysis is actually a temporary inability to move or speak that occurs either when falling asleep or upon waking. It's often accompanied by hallucinations and a sense of pressure or suffocation, all while the person remains fully conscious. This condition is medically known as sleep paralysis. It falls under a category of sleep disorders involving abnormal behavior during sleep and is associated with the REM, rapid eye movement, stage of the sleep cycle. Normally, during REM sleep, we dream, and our bodies undergo muscle atonia, a natural paralysis that prevents us from acting out our dreams. This paralysis usually ends as we wake up, so we're not aware it ever happened. In the case of sleep paralysis, however, the mind awakens before the body does, trapping the person in a terrifying in-between state. It is estimated that around 75% of sleep paralysis episodes are accompanied by hallucinations. These hallucinations typically fall into three categories. Intruder hallucinations, sensing the presence of a threatening figure in the room. Chest pressure hallucinations, often described as a crushing weight on the chest, leading to difficulty breathing. Vestibular motor hallucinations, involving feelings of movement, such as floating or flying. The inability to move can be deeply distressing, and hallucinations can intensify the discomfort. As a result, about 90% of people report feeling fear during a sleep paralysis episode, while only a small number experience pleasant or euphoric sensations. Episodes can last from a few seconds up to around 20 minutes, with an average duration of 6 to 7 minutes. Most episodes resolve on their own, but in some cases they can be interrupted by external stimuli, such as someone's voice or physical touch, or by the sleeper's own intense efforts to break free from the paralysis. The exact cause of sleep paralysis remains unclear. However, researchers believe that multiple factors contribute to this phenomenon, with the most prominent being sleep disorders and other sleep issues. Studies have shown that people with sleep apnea are 38% more likely to experience sleep paralysis. The condition is also more common among individuals who suffer from nighttime leg cramps. Symptoms such as insomnia, Difficulty falling asleep and excessive daytime sleepiness have also been linked to a higher risk of sleep paralysis. Those with disrupted circadian rhythms, for example due to frequent flying across time zones or working night shifts, are also at greater risk of experiencing this unsettling condition. To this day, medical science has never recorded a single death caused by sleep paralysis. Yet, everyone who has experienced it still shudders in fear when recalling those terrifying moments. But what about you? Do you believe sleep paralysis is just a sleep phenomenon? Or could it really be a spirit pressing down on you from the other side? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss any of our upcoming spiritual mystery breakdowns.